These are declassified CIA projects that you may never have heard of. Some of these will sound like they're straight out of a movie, but they're real. The Central Intelligence Agency does some things that most people aren't aware of, but they have done some crazy stuff throughout the years. These are 10 projects that were top secret at one point, but are now out in the open. They're going to blow your mind. Number 10. Project Blue Book. This was a secret project that ran from 1952 to 1969. It was a research project that looked into reports of UFOs or unidentified flying objects. This is not something you hear about every day, but it's real. There were hundreds of cases investigated during this time period, and many of them remain unsolved to this day. The CIA collected information on UFO sightings across the United States and around the world. They interviewed witnesses, collected physical evidence, and even conducted experiments to try and understand these mysterious objects. One of the most famous cases that was investigated was the Roswell incident in 1947. This was when a rancher found debris from a crashed flying saucer in New Mexico. The CIA was involved in a cover-up, and they said it was actually a weather balloon. But there are still people who believe that there was an alien spacecraft and the government is hiding the truth. Whatever you think, it's interesting to know that the CIA has been investigating UFOs for decades. Number 9. Operation Mockingbird. This was a top-secret CIA project that used journalists as assets to gather intelligence and spread propaganda. This is similar to how journalists work in general, but this was a bit more underhanded. The CIA recruited journalists from around the world and paid them to write articles that would further the agency's goals. Some of these articles were planted in major newspapers and magazines, while others were written directly by CIA employees. The purpose of this program was to control the flow of information and shape public opinion. The CIA wanted to be able to influence how people thought about important issues, and they used journalists as their weapon. This was especially true during the Cold War when the CIA was trying to win the hearts and minds of people living behind the Iron Curtain. They also used this program to discredit their enemies and spread propaganda. For example, they once wrote a fake article that made it look like Soviet leader Nikita Khrushchev was mentally unstable. This kind of stuff is scary because it shows how far the CIA was willing to go in order to get what they wanted. Number 8. Operation Midnight Climax. This was a secret CIA project that took place in the 1950s and 1960s. It was designed to gather intelligence on other countries through the use of prostitutes. This might sound crazy, but it was actually a pretty common tactic during the Cold War. The CIA would hire prostitutes to seduce foreign government officials, and then they would bug their hotel rooms or follow them around to see what kind of information they could gather. They were able to learn all kinds of secrets this way, from political gossip to military plans. One of the most famous cases was in 1961, when a CIA prostitute seduced Soviet ambassador to the United Nations. She then bugged his apartment and recorded him talking about a secret plan to assassinate Cuban leader Fidel Castro. The CIA used this information to blackmail the ambassador and force him to end the meeting. This is just one example of the crazy things that went on during the Cold War. Number 7. MK Ultra. This was a top-secret CIA project that took place in the 1950s and 1960s. It was designed to use mind control to turn CIA agents into the ultimate sleeper spies. They experimented with everything from hypnosis to brainwashing to drugs. The goal was to find a way to make someone do anything without their knowledge. This is like something out of a science fiction movie, but it was real. They experimented on unsuspecting people, including CIA employees and even some members of Congress. They wanted to see if they could turn anyone into a sleeper agent. If it had gotten out that the CIA was experimenting with mind control, it could have caused a lot of panic. So they kept it top secret. They destroyed most of the files related to this project, so we may never know the full extent of what they did. But what we do know is that it was crazy. Number 6. Operation Chaos. This was a secret CIA project from the early 1960s. Its main purpose was to destabilize Cuba. The CIA wanted to get rid of Fidel Castro, who was a communist leader. They tried everything from assassination attempts to economic sanctions, but nothing worked. So they came up with a new plan. They created a fake anti-Castro group called Alpha 66. The plan was to have this group stage a rebellion against Castro. The CIA would then support the rebellion and help overthrow the government. But the plan backfired. The Cuban government found out about it and crushed the rebellion. Many members of Alpha 66 were killed or imprisoned. Castro came out on top. This is one of the most famous examples of CIA meddling in other countries. It's a reminder of how sometimes these plans can go horribly wrong. Number 5. Project Artichoke. This was a top-secret CIA project that took place in the early 1950s. It was designed to see if the CIA could use chemical weapons to control the behavior of humans. This is basically the same thing as MKUltra, but this project was a bit more focused. They were specifically looking at the effects of LSD on people. The goal was to find a way to make someone do anything without their knowledge. This is where things get really crazy. They experimented on unsuspecting people, including CIA employees and even some members of Congress. The idea was to find a way to turn anyone into a sleeper agent. If this project had been leaked to the public, it could have caused a lot of panic. So the CIA kept it top secret. It destroyed most of the files related to this project, so we may never know the full extent of what they did. But what we do know is that it was insane. Number 4. Operation PB's success. This was a top-secret CIA project that took place in the early 1960s. It was designed to help the CIA overthrow the government of Guatemala. The CIA wanted to get rid of Jacobo Arbenz Guzman, who was the president of Guatemala. He was a socialist leader, which was a threat to the United States. So the CIA came up with a plan. It would support a group of rebels who would overthrow the government. The CIA would then recognize the new government and bring Guatemala into the U.S. sphere of influence. But the plan backfired. The rebels were defeated and Guzman stayed in power. This is one of the first examples of CIA meddling in other countries. It's a reminder of how sometimes these plans can go horribly wrong. Number 3. Operation Ajax. Back in the early 1950s, the CIA ran a secret project to topple the Iranian government. The CIA wanted to get rid of Mohammad Mossadegh, who was the Prime Minister of Iran. He was a democratically elected leader, but he was also a threat to the United States. So the CIA came up with a plan. It would support a group of generals who would overthrow the government. The CIA would then install a new government friendly to the United States, and that's exactly what happened. The generals overthrew the government and installed a new leader. This is one of the most famous examples of CIA meddling in other countries. It's a reminder of how sometimes these plans can be very effective. Number 2. Project Grill, Flame. This was a top-secret CIA project that took place in the early 1970s. It was designed to develop new ways to interrogate people. The CIA wanted to find new methods that would get people to talk without the use of torture. This is easier said than done. They experimented with everything from psychological pressure to drugs. The goal was to find a way to extract information without causing physical harm. This is where things get a bit dark. They experimented on unsuspecting people, including CIA employees and even some prisoners. The idea was to find a way to get people to talk no matter what. This project's leaking could have caused an enormous uproar, so the CIA kept it under wraps. Number 1. Operation PBS. This was a top-secret CIA project that took place in the early 1960s. It was designed to study the effects of nuclear weapons on buildings and bridges. The CIA wanted to find out how much damage could be done with a nuclear blast. This is not something you hear about every day, but it's real. They conducted tests in Nevada, and the results were devastating. The CIA learned that nuclear weapons could destroy entire cities. This is why it's so important that we have treaties in place to prevent countries from using them. If any country wanted to attack another country with a nuclear weapon, they could cause massive destruction. These are just a few of the crazy CIA projects that have been declassified. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Be sure to click the like and subscribe buttons, as more videos will come. Thanks for watching. See you next time.